First of all, I would like to pay my high respect to lecturer and a good morning to all beloved classmates in here. So today I'm gonna do the presentation about communicative language teaching. Okay, and the content of communicative language teaching, the set up the principle about one is the CLT background, and the second one goal of language teaching. The third one how learner learn a language, and the fourth one classroom activity that best facilitate learning, and the last one a role of teacher. So now we go to C. Sorry, it's something wrong with CLT, not CTL background. And the origins of communicative language teaching, or we can say in short, just call CLT, are found in the chain of the British language teaching. That is not in the late 1960s. So we know that the communicative language teaching is one of the famous teaching approach, and it's not too long, just the chain of British language teaching that they set up and found it in later in 1960. And the situational language teaching was the major approach to teaching as a foreign language. So they focus CLT or communicative language teaching with the foreign language. And language was taught by practicing basic structure in meaning situation based activity. We're talking about the real practice or the real conversation in order to improve the student competence. And the goals of language teaching, communicative language teaching, or we can say CLT, due to develop the communicative competence. We know that the competence, it means ability. So we use this approach teaching in order to let the student improve their communication, or we work more on communicating with between student and they communicate with the student and in teacher in order to improve their communication ability. And communicative competence contrast with a linguistic competence. So we're gonna see what is the linguistic competence and what is the difference between linguistic competence and communicative competence. We can see in here linguistic competence rule of creating grammatical correct sentence. So in the previous time, when we teach the student, we focus on linguistic competence. It means that we want to develop the student to use the grammatical correctly. Yeah, that's why we call linguistic competence. But in the last century, or we can say the last new creating, or we can say the new founds of language teaching, we focus on communicative competence and how sentences are found in are used in communication, implication for English as an international, not necessarily based on native speaker norm. So we can see what is the difference between linguistic competence and communicative competence. One is focused on grammar, and another one focus on sentence use, or we can say focus on student speaking. That in here we just talking about the traditional approach to a language teaching, or we can say the old approach that used up to in 1960. We can say the old one, the old approach in language teaching. In the previous time, the priority was given to grammatical competence. As I told you before, in the previous time, the teacher they focus on grammatical competence. It means abilities of students to use the grammar correctly. And talking about accurate pronunciation and mastery. And also talking about how to use, how to pronounce the word and how to pronounce the sentence. And we can say the traditional teaching also talking about the grammar and learn through. Sometimes in the previous time we use grammar translation method, talking about direct instruction. It means you give the instruction of grammar to the student directly. And repetitive practice. And another one, memorization of dialogue. Dialogue means conversation. We can see we have learned since we was young. Sometimes the teacher try us to understand the whole context and the whole text, or sometimes ask the student to remember all the dialogue or conversation that we have learned. So that's all the previous, or we can say the traditional approach to language teaching. But in lately, the new one, communicative language teaching in the years 1970 to 1999, and we have changed. We have changed from linguistic competence to communicative competence. In order to alternative model of syllabus to replace grammatical grammatical syllabus. We can say that the change is replaced by grammatical syllabus, because previous time we focus on too much with grammatical and functional syllabus and skill syllabus. Skill syllabus in here we refer to the macro skill of language teaching, English teaching. We have reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So they focus on the skill syllabus. Alternative classroom procedure, about talking about the classroom. And communicative language teaching also focus on real communication, focus on language teaching. I can say that the communicative language teaching, the main aim of them is how the student can communicate with the student or with the teacher. And the last one, building communicative competence. Yeah, we can say in order to improve the student ability in their communicative. And typical classroom activity in here, some activity that we use in class communicative language teaching. We have the information gap activity. Yeah, in here it is activity that we use in CLT. And jigsaw activity. Yeah, I know. I think that some of you know about the jigsaw activity. And task completion activity. We mean ask the student to complete the task. And opinion sharing activity. As you can see in this picture, the student can share the idea to the class in order to improve their speaking skill. The way they share, the more they get to improve their speaking. And information of transfer activity. And the last one is role play. And role play is one of the easy one for classroom activity in CTL. And about the teacher role, how teachers role play in communicative language teaching. Teachers is a role important in this part. CTL teacher assume a responsibility for determining and responding to student language need. So we just follow the student center, not the teacher center. Just help them and responding them when the student need the language. Sometimes they don't know the word. Being a teacher, just add more and give them the information and give them some word in order to make them can make the conversation in the class. And individual motivation for studying the language. So teacher in CTL also can motivate the student as individual. You come in closer to them and tell them and to motivate them in order to let them try to speak in English. or communicative with their friend. Just example like that. One student, she is shy or he is shy. Just go and near him, try to speak with him one day and one day, so they can produce with communication with their friend or with teacher. And CLT, teacher plan, instruction, and activity that respond to student need. So we have to make plan how to arrange the student, how let them do the student do the activity like jigsaw, like role play, or something else that the student need. Okay, it's my point. It's finished now. Talking about communicative language teaching. Okay, thank you, lecturer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vechhanak. We can say like some part here, it might be opposite to some existing principle. We can say like, especially in Cambodian context, we can say like, the people normally say, okay, if you are good at grammar, you may not be able to speak English well. They want to speak, learn how to speak, or the one who is good at speaking, that guy or that lady may not be good at grammar in here. Yeah, that's some part that they just keep talking about this part, and some part is just like really demotivate for English learner as well. You can say, yeah, some they may be afraid of learning grammar. Some they may be afraid of speaking because of some condition there. And even in about CLT themselves, we can say like some people they just misunderstanding or misinterpreting regarding to CLT, just focus on only fluency, but not focus on accuracy in here. Is it true for that? Yeah.
Yeah, lecturer.
Yeah, some part, but actually we can say, yeah, both of them they focus, but they focus and they keep learning about grammar and spontaneously through language communication. Yeah, the best way that they can do that, right? Okay, so this is just some part that people discuss about CLT. And any question that you want to clarify from Mr. Vechhanak, please. Okay, only one or two questions.
Yeah. It's me like that.
Yeah, come on, say that.
Yeah. As we all know that CLT or communicative language teachings is the process of using communication to learn and practice the good language by interaction with one to another. My question is, could you please just it is not a question, I just want you to give one example related to the activity that you use or that can be used in order which, and the example is related to the communicative language teaching. Just give one example related to the activity that you use for communicative language teaching.
Okay, thank you, teacher Chandet. In here we have some many activity like information gap activity, jigsaw activities, but task completion activity, opinion sharing activity. But among of them, I just want to talking about the role play. Role play, I think that all of you use it a lot in order to teach the student. We can say speaking skill. We ask them to role plays in asking working group, and once of the student role play as what we instruct to do. Like what I used to do that I just ask them to give them one topic and let them role play in this topic. So we can call it is CLT or communicative language teaching, because a role play is the easy one, and they can use their own language in order to communicate with the student or they can produce their speaking skill in class also. And we have many activity beside role play, but I just mentioned one. Okay, thank you, Teacher Chandet. You can add more, lecturer, if I have any not clear for him.
That is okay, teacher. That is okay. That's an example.
Yeah.
But that the thing is, I just want you to clarify more related to the you can say potential problem that might happen while we are applying CLT. For example, we normally students do not have the same ability when we let them to work together in order to communicate or in order to practice their language learning process. Some of them are very interested in learning because of their ability. I mean, they have enough ability to produce the language or to share the information to the others. However, small number of students, I mean, 1 or 2 students are not interested in doing what we, the teacher, want them to do. Because of their background knowledge. I mean, the ability is not enough to share the information to others. So they do not participate or they do not take part doing this. So what's the best solution in order to make that student or those students who are not interested in doing that to participate or to join with others to share information or to communicate with each other through the target language? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Teacher Chandet. That's why I can say in here the role play. We can say the play important role of teacher in here. It mean that not just give them the role play or just give them the activity to improve their speaking. Being a teacher, we have to know the student ability, which student are good and some student are shy or some student they are not good at speaking. So we have to know them all about their ability. And when we classify the activity to them, we just said the small one mean the easy one to the one who cannot speak, the one who ability is not enough to communicate with their friend. Just give them the easy one, the easy task or the easy activity to the one who is weak in the class. Beside that, when the students shy, they are shy, they cannot speak. Sometimes some students they can speak, but they are shy because I will know that our culture, some students like the girl, they are very shy in order to speak English. So being a teacher, I can write in here, earn individual motivation for studying the language. So come close to him or her and just ask them the easy question. What the question that we just want them to produce their speaking, like we can say, oh, how are you today? And if the student can reply you, I'm okay, I'm fine. Okay, it is also the task to let them in the CLT, or we can say ask the other question that is the easy one for him or her, and try to motivate them, like say, oh, don't be shy, we are our classmate and from the same side and from the same class, just try to speak it out a little or long. It's up to you. That's why we come closer to them and motivate them in order to they produce their speaking skill. Okay, thank you, Teacher Chandet. Thank you, Lijra.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Vechhanak. Actually, I'm so interested in the one that you raised related to how to assign the task for the students. It is very significant for us as the teachers to know about this, because some tasks are very difficult, but some tasks are easy. So we should let the weak students, or we can say slow learners, to do the activity that is easy, and the difficult ones should be applied for the strong learners or the fast learners, so that they can learn together without discouragement or without being embarrassed in the classroom. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.